Coastal Carolina going to face a familiar foe in Omaha, the Arizona Wildcats. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, we will also look at Coastal Carolina's side of the bracket. And I will say this with some understanding, but the Raging Cajuns need to get over it. All right, that's not going to win me any fans in Lafayette, but my goodness, what an article. Okay. We'll get to that at the end. I should leave it alone, but I'm not going to. Coastal Carolina taking on Arizona and give it up to the Wildcats. We mentioned this on what day is it? I guess we mentioned it on Saturday. When Coastal Carolina beat Auburn, Arizona came back to defeat North Carolina 10-8 after getting pummeled 18-2, and it looked like North Carolina, ranked 5th in the RPI in Warren Nolan's rankings, was going to take on Coastal Carolina. Instead, it's Arizona with a 4-3 victory over North Carolina. So it'll be Coastal Carolina and Arizona. All right, we'll get to the other side of the bracket later on. We can go through what Arizona did, because if we're looking at starting pitching, which is the key to all of this, they don't have a whole lot of it. All right. And I'm not saying that. I'm just going to say what it did this past weekend. All right. Because it was not great, Bob. As you can imagine, in the first game, Owen Kramkowski got shellacked. Carolina put 5 runs up in the first, 3 more in the second. Kramkowski gave up 8 runs on 6 hits in an inning and a third. Michael Hilker Jr. settled things down, inning and 2/3, shutout baseball. 2 strikeouts, but that's all he went, and the bullpen gave up a bunch of runs after that. All right. That was on Friday. Arizona came back to win on Saturday. The start wasn't much better. They won 10-8 because of their bats, but the start wasn't much better. Raul Garayzar, we'll go with that, Garayzar. Garayzar, 1 inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, both earned 3 walks and a strikeout. Garrett Hicks, so Garayzar could have just been an opener for all I know. Garrett Hicks, 2 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, all earned, 3 walks. Casey Hintz, 4 runs, 5 hits, 3 1/3 innings. Tony Pluta is actually the hero for Arizona. He got the win on Saturday, and he got the save on Sunday. So the back end is pretty good. Bailey Smith, I will say that again. Let's try that again. Smith Bailey, he actually pitched pretty well on Sunday. He went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs, 5 hits, 3 walks, 4 punchouts. By far, and not very close, to being the best start of the weekend. Now, what does that mean moving forward? Who really knows? Because we can look at the statistics for the season and see if that's the case, because Colin McKinley did make a start. He had 13 outings, 13 starts, 15 outings. He had a 4 ERA. And where did we see? It was Owen Kramkowski. Bailey Smith leads the team with an ERA of 4, and he pitched the last game. So they saved him for that clinching ball game, or that's just the way that it worked out. As we mentioned, Tony Pluta at the back end of the bullpen, very good, 1.26 ERA, 3-0, and he's got 14 saves, only 22 hits, 35 and 2/3 innings, 5 runs all season, 7 walks, 34 strikeouts. Opponents hitting a grand total of 183 against Tony Pluta. So the back end is very, very good. Let's see here. Raul, as we said, Raul Garizar, we're trying to figure out how to say that by the time the series starts, or the ball game anyways. He has done both. He is pitching, well, he's got a 2-0 record with a 2.81 ERA. Obviously, he didn't pitch that well the other day. 57 and 2/3 innings, 49 base hits, 23 runs, 18 earned, 46 strikeouts, 19 walks. That's not great, but opponents only hitting 229 against him, so he's pretty good. So we'll see what Arizona is going to do. But at least heading into this, and remember, this is just one ball game. It is not double elimination against the same team. I would think that Cam Fluke is pitching for Coastal Carolina. That's just the way that it has worked out, because you put Jacob Morrison on regular rest basically since the final series of the season, right? He didn't pitch the Friday night of, was it ULM? He pitched on Friday of the ULM series, actually. The opening game of the series was on Thursday. So then they held him back for a few games in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. I don't think he pitched the first or second game. He was held back. And then, obviously, he didn't pitch until Saturday in Auburn. So I would presume he's going to pitch on Saturday. Brandon Dunn, television reporter covering Coastal, says Coastal will play either Friday at 2 p.m. or at 7 p.m. I guess he's going to do it Eastern time. So Eastern time. And so that's where we are. Again, it seems like a quick turnaround for Arizona because they played on Sunday, but that's the way all college teams do it, right? One team ended it because they didn't play a third game, but you're always used to playing on Friday and then playing on Friday again. So that pitcher from Friday is going to have regular rest if that's who they go with. We'll see if they juggle their rotation, not to mention their starters on Friday and Saturday didn't pitch very much. And we'll see what the temperatures are. Take that into consideration. Again, you guys know this. I'm not an excuse guy. I'm much more of a reasons guy. It was hot and humid in Auburn. 95 pitches for Cam Fluke was definitely a different than what 95 pitches would have been in Conway. Same with Jacob Morrison, who I think had over 100 pitches. Those pitches were definitely much different. Now, we'll see what it is in Nebraska in a week. It could be hot and humid. Could have a nice breeze. Who knows what it is, all right? But as somebody who did spend a weekend in Charleston, the same weekend that they were playing in Conway, I know they had that one storm go through. It was really pleasant. Presume it wasn't that big a difference in temperatures. But they couldn't talk about the lack of breeze enough during the broadcast. And you could see, the sweat coming down everyone's face. So I think it's a great matchup. Needless to say, Coastal Carolina is better than Arizona. I'm also the big believer, if you get this far, you're really good. And again, either you're really good or really hot. And in this case, Arizona may be both. They won the Big 12 tournament. They won their regional, and they just beat Carolina in Carolina. So I believe Coastal Carolina is better. I think Coastal Carolina will win that ball game. I also believe Coastal Carolina will probably play for the national championship. Pitching matchups will play a big part towards the end. But did they catch a little bit of a break not playing Carolina? Maybe. No Jake Knapp. All right. No Jake Knapp. All right. So we'll look at the rest of the bracket. Who else could be potential foes for Coastal Carolina right after I tell you about FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easier to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. We don't have the final odds for the College World Series yet at the time of this recording, but when you got LSU and Arkansas, we'll see if LSU's in there. I'm going to guess that they are, and other teams that are more prominent nationally than Coastal Carolina, you're going to get some good odds on Coastal Carolina to win this thing. All right. I'm telling you, it could be 10, 12, 15 to 1 for Coastal Carolina to win this thing. That's going to be some good odds compared to some other teams. We'll check it out when it does come out. All right. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Should also mention, Murray State is playing for a chance to play in the College World Series. How great is that? That's fantastic. Okay, the rest of Coastal Carolina's bracket. I believe this is the way that it goes. There's one side of the bracket and the other side of the bracket. And on Coastal Carolina's side, again, they're playing Arizona. The top half of the bracket is Louisville, as it turns out. We could have a little rivalry with my nephew, the Samo, because he's all of a sudden a Louisville Cardinals fan. They were actually watching the game today. I'm not sure my sister-in-law has ever seen one out of a Louisville Cardinal baseball, but apparently they were watching it today with my brother and nephew. So good for them, despite me urging them to watch when Brandon McKay played here. They beat Miami. So Louisville is on the side of Coastal Carolina. And again, this could be determined by the time, by the time you're watching this, Oregon and Florida State. Louisville will play the winner of Oregon State and Florida State, which was probably already determined by the time you're seeing this. So basically what's going to happen is, I would presume, the winner of Louisville and Oregon State, or we'll say that again. Oregon State and Florida State, that winner is going to play Louisville. That winner will play the winner of Coastal Carolina and Arizona. The two losers will play each other. And then whoever wins from the losing bracket, then they play each other. And it's a double elimination, all right, from there. Remember, and this has been tweaked numerous times since I've been following college baseball, and certainly I follow it much more in the last decade since I moved to Lafayette. But it is the best 2 out of 3. All right. When CBS got it, they didn't want any part of the if necessary game. It used to be double elimination all the way through. CBS said, nope, we're not doing that. When we're airing the game, we're airing the game. That's the championship game. So teams somewhere along the way may have, and certainly did get screwed because some team lost one and one team didn't. Before that, I remember Sean McDonough will say that, would come on the air, introduce the game, and he'd say, oh, by the way, if so-and-so wins this ball game, either we'll be coming back tomorrow and we'll play again. All right. CBS wanted to avoid that. And now they've come to the agreement where we're not going to play one game. We're going to play 2 out of 3. That's where this pitching comes into play. All right. And it's not only your front end pitching, it's your back end pitching. And, do you have, more than 2 starters? Mm-hmm. Somewhere along the way, there's going to be unsung heroes. There always are. LSU had more than Paul Skeens. He had some freshmen step up. Skeens got all of the pub, but so many other guys stepped up in addition to Paul Skeens. And so we saw Hayden Johnson, I said his name wrong in yesterday's podcast. I apologize. But Hayden Johnson was huge on Saturday. 3 innings of shutout baseball. I mean, how you didn't have to go to Carbone or Lynch. I mean, that's fantastic. All right. And so something like that's going to happen. However, though, again, you're going to be hard pressed to find one of these teams that have, I mean, you want to call them 3 aces? I don't know if anybody's got 3 aces. I presume everybody's got one. Everybody's got a Friday night starter. All right. Although checking Arizona's lineup, not so much. But everybody's got one guy. All right. If not 2. All right. As somebody who's followed LSU for the better part of a decade, always their issue was they never had the Sunday guy. They couldn't finish it off. And so when their Sunday guy got hurt a few years ago, before they beat, Paul Skeens and company won, when Maneri was there the last time, they lost because their Sunday guy got hurt right before the College World Series. And that left them in the hole. They got swept by I think they got swept by Florida, best 2 out of 3. And that's the difference, all right? And so Coastal Carolina has that. Now, somebody like LSU has a Cade Anderson. Can, a Jacob Morrison match a Cade Anderson? Do they match up together? At the same time, Cade Anderson is facing a Coastal Carolina lineup, which is really good. We know that. It's balanced. It may not be quite as explosive as an LSU lineup. So a little bit of difference there. But nonetheless, we saw how good Jacob Morrison pitched on the road in Auburn. You're going to have a lot of fans rooting for Coastal Carolina as the underdog. Should also note, Omaha is the home away for home from LSU, if it gets that far. All right. LSU has been going up there for the better part of some 35 odd years. They are a ton of Omaha Heights LSU fans, because they just keep on coming back year after year after year. They won all those championships under Skip Bertman, and they just won one again, really for the first time in a minute, right? Was it 09? Whenever Maneri won one, they hadn't won one in a minute, and then they won one just a couple years ago under Jay Johnson. And so it'll be interesting to see on how all that works. But again, that's the bracket. It's Louisville. On the top end of the bracket, they have advanced. And by the time you see this, Oregon State and Florida State, Louisville will play that winner. And we know that that Coastal Carolina gets Arizona. Then I presume those 2 winners will play. Those 2 losers will play. And then you go from there. All right. And then you might get the winner from the losers playing the loser from the winners. That make sense? I think that's the way that it works. All right. I've debated whether to do this. It's not going to win me any fans, but it is just so disingenuous and disingenuine. And I do understand how frustrating and a little embarrassing, all right, it is, but I'm going to tackle it because it is also incredibly hypocritical. So I took some grief last week. They didn't write about me, but they wrote about the situation. And I just think Raging Cajuns fans need to get over it. They're not gonna, but they need to get over it. We'll explain when I come back after I thank everybody before everybody decides to stop following. So we did it. We went over 2,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You guys are the best. We're going to have close to a record week. Not quite, but really do appreciate it. Fantastic stuff. We get another whole week of this stuff. It's going to be fantastic. And really looking forward to talking college baseball. We'll find some, I don't think it's going to be difficult to find some Louisville people to talk to. We got to look for some Arizona people to talk to and maybe some Florida State. And Oregon State people, depending on who wins. But and I certainly have some connections to LSU. So there's plenty of people that we can talk some college baseball with the next couple of weeks, hopefully the next couple of weeks. Certainly this week, we are looking forward to that. But thank you so much. Keep on downloading the audio podcast. It's been a big help. Can definitely see, it's a 50% increase over the last week or so. So I appreciate that. Apple or Spotify. All right. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. All right. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Okay. So a little background here. All right. We've talked about it a couple of times. I did a really good job the other day, my OCD having me not to respond. But Gerry Glasco, the former Ragin' Cajun softball coach, lost in the championship in softball. Texas Tech lost to Texas. Okay. Texas Tech went out and spent a bunch of money. They got Najee Kennedy from Stanford, and he took a bunch of players, Maya Davis, Alexis Langoliers, all Red, the first baseman, Vic Valdez, the catcher, Chloe Riasoto. All right. Also, Sam Landry went to Oklahoma. So that's at least 6 players that left. All right. Part of the problem is that when Glasgow took the job at Texas Tech, the portal had closed for players to go in it, except when your coach leaves, you can go in it. So the Cajuns players left. They went with the coach. Okay. So what happened was all these articles about Gerry Glasco leading his team, snide remarks from Cajuns fans about buying their championship. All right. Which is true. They paid a lot of money for it. All right. But so did Ohio State. Paid a lot of money for their championship. Texas paid a lot of money to play for their championship. Notre Dame paid a lot of money to play for their championship. And Florida probably paid a lot of money to play and win their championship. And I'm going to guess Texas softball paid a lot of money for their championship. And I'm sure Oklahoma has paid a ton of money over the last few years to play and win their softball championships. All right. So when you see people tweet out money can't buy a championships, it sure can. It sure does. That's the way the world works this year. All right. So my guys, and specifically Lane Johnson, who is a very nice young man, worked at one of the radio stations, actually trained me at the ESPN affiliate, former ESPN affiliate in Lafayette when I went over there to work weekends. He wrote a scathing column. Texas Tech's World Series failure is the price of Gerry Glasco's softball robbery. As if karma stopped them from winning the college softball championship. All right. And so it's a pretty well-written column. And here is the heart of the matter. Let's talk about Louisiana. For nearly 3 decades, Ragin' Cajun softball was a blue-collar powerhouse. They did more with less. They terrified Power 5 teams with grit, defense, timely hitting, and a no-fear mentality. It's one of the sport's greatest underdog dynasties. And then came Glasgow, whose final act in Lafayette was to torch the culture, gut the roster, and pack his bags for Lubbock with 5 of Louisiana's top players in tow. All right. One of the problems with that paragraph is a couple of things. First off, the problem with Cajun softball and the reason, so they're basically like, Cajun softball is basically like Boise State football and Gonzaga basketball. Maybe not quite Gonzaga because they've been to the championship game and they've played in Oklahoma City. The problem with Cajun softball is they've never had the pitching depth. All right. They've had either 1 or 1.5 girls to get them to where they need to go, but they've always been outclassed or outarmed, usually by LSU. And the one time they weren't, guess what happened? They beat LSU, led by Gerry Glasco, in the Super Regional. What that paragraph fails to mention is, because the way it's written, is it feels like Gerry Glasco kind of swooped in 2024, coached the team, and hijacked it out of town. It doesn't mention that as a first-year head coach, he came in under less than ideal circumstances when the other coach was let go. The legendary softball coach was let go. You can look up on why, right? And it took a whole season. I don't mind saying it took a whole season for them to get going. They lost to LSU in a regional final. That was a pretty good year for Gerry Glasco. All right. That was probably right before, maybe a couple of years before NIL and the transfer portal. All right. So he wasn't dealing with that yet. All right. But he did not let it slip. All right. As a first-year head coach, longtime assistant, first-year head coach. And he lifted them to heights that they hadn't been for a minute. All right. They had been to Oklahoma City, I think, once. That was 14. They won a super regional in Arizona. Or they beat Arizona in a super regional at home. But they also blew one in Auburn because they didn't have enough pitching. And so they're blaming Gerry Glasco for the whole NIL transfer portal thing, as if he created it all. And it's his responsibility to be, the Raging Cajuns coach forever. All right. So it goes on to say, let me get the rest of this. All right. Texas Tech didn't lose because they lacked talent. They lost because they lacked identity. They were stitched together roster of former stars with no real chemistry and a coach who abandoned the roots of culture for the gloss of a quick championship. And when they met a real team, one built the right way with development, discipline, and trust, they got exposed. That's not right at all. They lost because Najee Candidate got tired. There was one play that I saw where the left fielder for Texas Tech hit the shortstop when she was covering third base, and the shortstop wasn't looking. A runner moved up. Did that affect the outcome of the game? Not one iota. Najee Candidate, who gives up like 1 or 2 runs a ball game, gave up 5, including a 3-run home run. Doesn't matter that the final score was 10-4 or 10-3. Those other runs don't matter, because go back and look at Texas Tech. They hadn't been scoring a lot of runs since the SEC tournament. Don't want to hear it. All right. Texas Tech didn't lose because of lack of chemistry. They lost because of the same reason the Cajuns always lose: lack of depth in the circle. Same exact thing. All right. And just a quick reminder for Cajuns fans. All right. The same girls, including Sam Landry of Oklahoma, who got some money to go to Oklahoma. Don't blame her. Good for her. Who beat LSU in a regional, losing to Oregon in a super regional. Guess what they did with all their team chemistry in 24? They lost to Baylor. So much for team chemistry. Oh, and they lost that regional at home. Why didn't they win that one? Where was that team chemistry? Same girls who played in the college championship. You can't tell me you lost in the final game of the college softball season because you lack team chemistry. You're playing in the last game of the season and you lacked chemistry? Really? Are you telling me these teams that get blown out, like those Super Bowl teams that got blown out, lacked chemistry because they got blown out? Come on. That is bitterness and hypocrisy at its worst, because at the same time that Cajuns fans are complaining about their team getting ravaged, and they did, they're paying their basketball team a whole heck of a lot of money. All right. Rage and Review is asking, among others, for people to step up to pay the baseball team or pay for the baseball team, because Coastal Carolina playing in Omaha, Southern Miss hosting, Cajuns were sitting at home because Coastal Carolina pays their players. Southern Miss pays their players. Thought you can't buy championships. All right. Walker Howard ain't playing for free, I bet you. All right. So, all right. And at the same time, while all of this is going on, a young lady from the University of Alabama just transferred home. She went to Kaplan High School. It's right there in Acadiana. She's transferring to play for the Raging Cajuns. she playing for free? I hope not. Hope she's getting a little something. But don't tell me, can't buy championships, because you can. Don't be hypocritical like that, all right? It hurts. It stinks. I understand what happened. I really do. But it really is an ugly look when you're complaining about chemistry. Same girls lost at home in Lafayette that you were rooting for, and now you're bitter that they lost in this last game of the entire season playing for a national championship, and you think they lost because of chemistry? I don't think so. They lost the same reason that they lost in Lafayette, is because they lacked depth in the circle, because the same girl was pitching all the time. That's why they lost, not because of lack of chemistry or karma. No, sir. That's all. All right. I do understand the Cajuns' plight, but it is really hypocritical. And really, it's sad to see the bitterness because, again, in my eyes, Gerry Glasco and those girls delivered the biggest victory in the last decade of Cajun sports, and that's beating LSU in the regional. All right. And that was after losing the first game. They had to beat LSU twice in Baton Rouge. To me, that's bigger than Bob Marlin's Sun Belt Championship, which he had done before, and the Sun Belt Football Championship. All right. Those have been done in the last decade. Those have been done in the last decade. I think the softball one is bigger. Overall, since I was there, obviously hosting the Super Regional is probably bigger. That's huge, although they lost it. And obviously the softball team did win the Super Regional against Arizona. That may be the biggest one of them all. That was pretty good. We'll see if Allison Habitz can turn the program around. We're changing coaches, making big changes. But it is very petty, very bitter, and again, big word, hypocritical, to be sitting here telling me you can't win championships. Everybody else is doing it. You're going to be doing it. And the same girls you claimed didn't win it because they lacked chemistry also lost in your park. Was that because of chemistry? Or is that because of lack of depth in the circle? Or I guess in the case of the Cajuns against Baylor, there was one too many errors. Was that because of lack of chemistry? All right. I said what I said. I'm sure that's going to win me a lot of fans in Southern Louisiana. All right. We will continue our coverage with Coastal Carolina and the College World Series throughout the week. Really appreciate your time. Continue to subscribe, and we'll continue our coverage. I put out the request for Kevin Schnall. Not holding my breath. He's very busy. Much easier to go on some national programs than my little podcast, but we do ask. All right. Hopefully we can find some time. All right. Appreciate it. And we'll obviously have more of the bracket and know what's going on Monday's episode. And we'll see if we can line up some guests to talk College World Series throughout the week. Thank you so much. You've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day,